it was washing over me, and I wasn't, I was just living in the song. I didn't even realize how thick into the woods I'd gotten and how much sound there was. But I remember noting, like, holy shit, we're coming to the end, and this thing is full. Hey, everybody out there. Welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles. It's Andy, it's John, and we are here to check out some tunage. And John is going to be offering me something to go off and listen to, and I am waiting here with bated breath. What do we have in store, sir?
So it's a band we've already covered once before, which means less homework for me. And that band is Stereolab.
This is Pack Your Romantic Mind is the one track that we've done. Was that like a few months ago or so at this point?
Yeah. So now we get on to Metronomic Underground.
Well, all right.
Yeah.
Well, then, I guess I will start making my way downward and give this thing a go and let you and all of our folks out there in the listening audience know what I made of it. This is interesting. This is great. I love what they're doing here. It starts off with this really, these almost disjointed digital sounds that are kind of like coming in, this perky, almost full bass work, and this beat that's trying to like hold it all together. And now they're starting to assemble more things on top of it. And there's even like vocalizing kind of sounds that are happening, almost like chatter. But I can't make out what it is at all. It's kind of acting as like a musical mechanism more so than like a traditional vocal part, where there's like lyrics that have some meaning. No, this is just some real interesting, fun music assembly that we're witnessing here, and I like it a lot.
Crazy
multiple voices. This is like hypnotic. Listen, folks, I know I'm not saying much here, but I am just, this thing is just putting me in a place in my own head, I guess. I'm just sort of sitting around here, letting this all wash over me. All these different sounds that they're adding and sort of layering in, building and assembling this is just lovely to hear. And the way they creep in and into each can, depending on, which side they're choosing. Sounds so good. So, so good. Yeah, I'm really enjoying this. don't know when it occurred, but it just feels like this sound has like swelled to an amount that is far greater than it was, but I didn't even notice it. Like it's just sort of like happened without me being like super aware or cognizant of when exactly it occurred. I love that. You just realize you're in the throes of something. That's how sort of mesmerizing all of this is. I know it's a like for me it's not repetitive because I'm hearing little things here and there that I wasn't hearing before, but I can understand how some might say that this has like a repetitive nature to it, but I don't know. For me, it's got this element of yes, at its root, it can be, but they're adding things to it here and there, or taking them away, or fading them in and out, which makes it different. But perhaps that sort of combo of both those dynamics is what makes it so hypnotizing to me. Yeah, let's take it back a little bit to let's just do 7 minutes. That ending kind of creeped up on me, surprisingly. Yeah, this was a lot of fun and very interesting. It's another one of those, where they created an initial sound and then just start building on it and building on it, and it somehow takes on by the end of it. You're like, how did it become this monster? Um, yeah, I had a lot of fun listening to this. It's this kind of song that can almost wipe your hard drive. You know what I mean? No, I before I plugged in, started doing this, I'm thinking about, oh my God, I got this yard work I got to do. I got to do a couple loads of laundry to get ready for the work week. I've got things on the docket, honeydew list, all of the stuff that was swirling around my, mid Saturday brain. And I plug into this, and it just kind of like for 7+ minutes, damn near 8, really, just kind of washed all that out of my psyche. Just, yeah, like I said, like a hard drive cleanse. Um, yeah, yeah, this was a lot of fun to listen to. Definitely one of those songs that like I could put on while doing any of those aforementioned items, right? Like if I'm mowing the lawn later today or tomorrow and I have this in my, speakers in my ears, ooh, just get lost in it, you know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah, this was a really fun listen. And there's something almost primordial about how it can just sink its teeth in you and kind of just have you closing your eyes and bobbing your head. Um, yeah, it kind of like for me, it took all the complexities of like life uh off the table for a moment. And that's like a nice feeling. It's weird how music can do that kind of shit. Yeah, no, I really, really enjoyed this. Let's get back to John and discuss some Stereolab once again.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He's back. So you've been down to the Metronomic Underground.
I have.
What did you make of it all?
Everything was well paced.
Yeah,
I think
everything was on time.
yeah, exactly. They're on a tight ship down there. I gotta say, this a bit different from
Yes.
Your Romantic Mind. And by a bit I mean a lot, because I got like Pack Your Romantic Minds had more of a familiarity to it from my perspective, because it had like this folksy indie, like this indie folk sound to it, which, as we've established, is one of my sweet spots that I like to get scratched every now and again. But this was different than that. This was not that at all. It didn't make it any less enjoyable. Actually, probably because it blew up my expectations in a good way. I actually liked this more, even though, like as I just established, the indie folk stuff is more what I'm used to and
Yeah,
I seek out. This is not necessarily something that I wouldn't seek out, but it just didn't fit the mold that I thought we were working with, having listened to the one track. So I really did enjoy this little adventure, this little happy accident. Um, so it starts with this scratching effect, if you will, or something akin or adjacent to record scratching. Almost disjointed digital sounds, perky bass work, and a beat trying to hold all of that together. And the sound, it sounds like what would be a soundtrack to one of those like fun house experience you would see on boardwalks or at a carnival. Everything was just a little off but fun and playful, and I like that. And I'm also picking up on what is either auxiliary percussion work, like a block strike, or something similar to that, cut from a similar cloth, or some sort of clipped sound that is so taut that it sounds like a block. And I couldn't really, there was all these, because again, this is one of those classics. Let's start with a couple things and then build on it or pervert the things that we've done to it. And then bleed in from this can and this can. So I was just trying to pick up on how they were kind of building this Lego set, if you will, as the song progressed. Um, Also, I knew there was a voice buried somewhere in the mix early on before the proper vocals start. But I'll be damned if I know what they're saying or even if it is a language. Oh,
I, w- I will come in here. Couple of things just briefly. So just so you're aware, it doesn't make any difference. You've already, done your reaction. Um, but this is completely analog. There's no
oh,
digital quality to this at all. So even the
oh,
synths
wow.
are analog.
Okay.
Secondly, that first bit you hear is him going a dub a dub dub a dub dub dub. That's what it is.
Okay.
Or is it? No, it's her, I think. But I've seen live versions, and I think it's after Mary's died, so it's the one of the blokes is singing it. But I was going to give you the live version, but there's so much going on. I think you probably just like your head would start spinning because there's always there's always layers, and to see
Yeah.
actually being added live is something quite like wow. So I thought I'd just give you the track because it is a
Mhm.
lot anyway. But anyway, yeah. So
Fair. No,
dub a
no.
dub
And
dub.
that's an interesting little factoid there as well. And just another reason to appreciate what I just heard.
Yeah,
So
dabba dum, dabba dum. It sounds
yes,
like Debenhams, but it's dabba dum.
but it's musical in nature. Not
Yeah,
to say that singing isn't. It obviously is, but singing serves a couple purposes, right? To be musical, but to also oftentimes tell a story or depict a
yeah,
scene or a setting. This was just much more like mechanical. Like
yeah.
it was just serving to as an instrumental portion. So that makes sense. At the 122 mark, we get the introduction of this resonant like organ note that is subtly pushing its way into the mix. Finally, discernible lyrics join the mix. Just because they can be heard doesn't mean they can be understood. Because I don't know what to do with crazy, sturdy, uh, a torpedo. So I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know what they're trying to say.
What are
Uh,
you, some sort of simpleton? You can't understand that?
right, just too complex. I am but a simple caveman. Um, so yes, it's still fun and playful in the way they break up the syllables and deliver it. It's interesting for sure. And it adds the delivery adds to the rhythmic nature of the whole song
Yeah,
anyway, which is just soaked in rhythms, right? That main riff, I think I said at some point toward the end, like this has that repetitive nature that sometimes people don't like, sometimes people do. It's whatever floats your boat, I suppose. But it also and that's the rhythm, right? That same rhythmic through line. But all the other stuff that they add in or fade out and all the shit that they do to
Yeah,
manipulate it, that gives you the like variance factor in the song. So both of these things are kind of wedded together. And I really appreciated that too. And it kind of validated the length of the song as well. So we then at one point there's a second voice that just sounds like it is like again making rhythmic nonsensical sounds that act more as a musical mechanism than a storyteller or narrator, and I think this is just an extension of what I had heard earlier before the proper vocals
yes,
joined the mix. So yeah, I really enjoyed that as well. It just made me appreciate how they're throwing the whole kitchen sink at this from the auxiliary sound standpoint or the ancillary sound standpoint. The little what they're willing to throw everything on top of or in this pot, and it's getting really trancy and hypnotic, if it frankly hasn't already been. I mean, this whole tune
yeah,
is it. And I could feel my mind and my mood just kind of melt little by little as the song progresses. So much so that the last couple of minutes of the song just kind of washed over me, and I had my eyes closed and my head bobbing for a lot of it. It has that effect on you. During the latter portion of the song, the drums became sort of my North Star, kind of keeping my mind on track as best it could or that my brain would allow. As all these again ancillary sounds were peppered all around and over top of them being the drums. And at some point, well into the 7 minute mark, I had to question whether this sound I was now in the midst of had swelled to this level of thickness without me realizing it. Because at some point I go, God, this is a lot louder and fuller than what I had thought I was in 2 minutes ago. But because it was washing over me and I wasn't, I was just living in the song. I didn't even realize how thick into the woods I'd gotten and how much sound there was. But I remember noting, like, holy shit, we're coming to the end and this thing is full. So yeah, I thought that was just really interesting that I had that experience because that doesn't often happen a lot where something like the dynamics or the sound shifts go by unnoticed, or when you do notice them, you're so far, into it that it's like, well, how the hell did I get here? But that was kind of what it felt like when I got almost to the end of the song. And finally, the sounds died down towards the 750 mark, and we were left with the resonance of what once was until we kind of like reached silence. And this was such a fun listen. And one that is great for at least for me, for disconnecting from reality a little bit. I was kind of like thrust into the here and now of the music, and that sort of like wipes your hard drive mentally for a good 8 minutes, which is great because I think in my I was like, I sat down to record this, and in between talking to you and recording it, I'm thinking of like my honeydew list for the weekend, and oh shit, I got to mow the lawn, I've got laundry to do to get ready for the work week, and just life shit. And the moment the song starts, like I forget all that bullshit and all the stuff that I need to do. And it's just like, it's just kind of cleansing in that regard. And it was just a good listen. And then I thought, when I get to those chores later that I have to do, this is an excellent soundtrack for that kind of shit because you can just lose yourself in it while you're doing some menial task and you can just live in the song. You know what I mean? So I'll be push mowing later and this will be on, in my headset and I can just, zone out for lack of a better term.
yes. Um, it's almost you can forget they're singing, and it's almost an instrumental. You
Yeah.
know, almost. This is actually quite an important um, song in terms of Stereolab and their development. So obviously I gave you stuff from before. I've told you that my favorite stuff is the sort of drone sort of Velvet Underground inspired sort of noise that they do, and you had a song off that album. But I thought rather than give you something else, along those lines, I'll give you the next stage of Stereolab, and this is you'll start to see why they are considered such an important band in terms of their output. And this
Mm.
is a stepping stone towards even later stuff. So, Emperor Tomato Ketchup. It's the fourth studio album, of course it is, by Stereolab. It was released in 1996, and it is named after the 1971 experimental film of the same name by Japanese author and director Shuji Teriyama, of course. Now, the artwork for this album, which is beautiful, and I don't need to tell you this, but for everybody else, was inspired by the LP cover sleeve of a 1964 recording of composer Bela Bartok's Concerto for the Orchestra by the Bamberg Symphony, conducted by Heinrich Hohlreiser. Of course, it screams it. It really does.
Naturally. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So on this album, Stereolab experimented with composing songs around looped sounds instead of traditional riffs. One of the critics, Tom Moon, found that the band's compositional approach reminiscent of hip hop and electronica music combined, with the loops being layered into
Mm.
this richly textured collage. Tim Gain, the guitarist, remarked that the shift in style from previous releases emerged from a year-long bout of writer's block, where the band felt they were just drifting, in quotes, in a musical landscape which wasn't inspiring or particularly exciting. With nothing on the horizon, everything we tried out seemed to be a dead end. And they ended up going for this. Now, helpfully, the album credits read vocals, percussion, bass, guitar, farcifer, Vox organs, analog synthesizer, electronics, electric piano, tambourine, vibraphone, other instruments, Stereolab. It then lists the members. So Tim Gain, who plays guitar, and they all do other bits as well.
Sure.
Letitia Sedier, Duncan Brown, Mary Hansen, Morgan Lotz, and Andy Ramsey. So from the liner notes, because the copy I've got is the remastered reissue, it's really nicely done. And inside here, there's a massive poster of the cover. And on the flip of that, there's all these liner notes he's read about every track. So Tim Gain's written about this song. Originally called Chrome Tubby, this track is often cited as the main example of the new sound of the band that had resulted from working in Chicago with John McIntyre. Now, he was the producer of this album. It was, of course, recorded and mixed in London at Blackwing Studios with Paul Tippler a month before we even arrived in Chicago. The second track, written for Emperor Tomato Ketchup, it reinforced the earlier song's move into a more profound use of space in the instrumentation and arrangement, and marked a shift from drone-style repetition into one of interconnecting and looping riffs.
Mm-hmm.
This was the beginning and earnest of the arranged in studio stroke studio as instrument approach that we would adopt from now on. Many tracks on Mars or Audiac Quintet, which is the previous album, were not rehearsed, but they tend to be less expansive tracks, not generally in a band style. This song was built up from the bottom, bit by bit, and pieced together at the mixing stage to make the finished track. As there were no computers or samplers used in recording Emperor Tomato Ketchup, it still retains quite a live and spontaneous feel to it. The vocals operate on an invocational level, brackets, I think, exclamation mark, being part of and rising out of a general sound mass, passing through the ebb and flow, kind of controlling events and kind of detached from it. Again, it's those vocals that are kind of used as a method rather than a delivery of message or
Yep.
However, there is a bit more to this than meets the eye. The track, still with these quotes, track as a whole seems to operate very much as a statement of intent for the new approach that the group would take. And wherever they refer to themselves as the group, they spell it GROOP. That's what they do. So the lyrics, dabba-dab-dum, dabba-dab-dum, many times. Crazy, sturdy, a torpedo, 4 times. Crazy, brutal, a torpedo.
Yeah.
Crazy, sturdy, a torpedo. And then we get the second vocals coming in. So crazy, brutal, a torpedo, who knows does not speak at the same time. Crazy, sturdy, or torpedo, who speaks does not know. Crazy sturdy or torpedo, keep the mouth closed. Crazy sturdy or torpedo, rounding the sharpness. Crazy brutal, a torpedo, untie the tangles. Crazy brutal, a torpedo, to be infinite. The return of the dabadabdums. Crazy sturdy or torpedo, to be vacuous. So all three vocals are going at this point. Crazy sturdy or torpedo, untie the tangles. Crazy sturdy or torpedo, to be vacuous. And then crazy sturdy or torpedo 4 times. And then we go, drops out to just the dabadabdums solo. And then we get this instrumental noodling from the organ, which is almost like a deconstruction of Riders on the Storm by the Doors.
Mhm.
It's got that feel to it. Really, really nice. And then they come back in, crazy sturdy or torpedo, untie the tangles, crazy sturdy or torpedo, to be vacuous, crazy sturdy or torpedo, to be infinite, crazy sturdy or torpedo, untie the tangles, crazy sturdy or torpedo, to be vacuous, crazy brutal, a torpedo, to be vacuous. And then who knows? This is sung really sort of quietly almost within the mix. Who knows does not speak. Who speaks does not know. Keep the mouth closed, rounding the sharpness and tie the tangles. And then it's back into crazy sturdy or torpedo, to be infinite. More dabba-dab-dums. Crazy sturdy or torpedo, to be vacuous. Crazy brutal torpedo, to untie the tangles. Crazy steady or torpedo, to be vacuous. And then crazy steady or torpedo, crazy brutal, blah, 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 blah. Dabba-dab-dums, fade out. Now, here's the interesting bit. On one of the lyric websites, a contributor noted the references within the song to the Tao Te Ching of Late Soi, which I'm not that familiar with. I know of his existence. But chapter 56 reads as this: those who know do not talk. Those who talk do not know. Keep your mouth closed, guard your senses, temper your sharpness. Simplify your problems, mask your brightness. Be at one with the dust of the earth. This is primal union. He who has achieved this state is unconcerned with friends and enemies, with good and harm, with honor and grace. This, therefore, is the highest state of man. Which is really interesting and very similar to those spoken bits. Now,
You can
because the
see
Tao,
how it may have inspired that. Not may have, probably inspired
yeah,
it.
and now because the Tao is written in classical Chinese, which no one speaks anymore, there are many interpretations and translations. So there's another one that goes, those who know it do not speak about it. Those who speak do not know it. Seal the openings, shut the doors, dull the sharpness, untie the knots, dim the light, be one with the dust. This is called the profound union. Those who obtain it can neither be seduced nor abandoned. Those who obtain it can neither be favored nor neglected. Those who obtain it can be neither honored nor humiliated. Therefore, they are the most esteemed in the world. So, yeah, these phrases, it's really interesting. So they've used this. And of course, this is an Eastern philosophy.
Mhm.
And it kind of ties in with how the music, you said, it sort of trances you and wipes your mind, which is kind of one of the main purposes of meditation.
Mhm.
So it's doing that while doing this message of meditation and thoughtfulness. It's
Yeah.
just really
Yeah,
clever and
yeah,
interesting.
paying
So
homage,
it's
yeah,
hidden within it.
yeah, to a culture or a
Yeah,
an ethos or pathos that kind of is what ends up being the product of their creation, which is really,
yeah.
really cool. Yeah.
So it's a really interesting track. This album's a great album. It's a departure from their previous stuff, and it leads the way forward for what they do in the future as well. So yeah, it's a real pivotal moment. I think it's just interesting as hell, and pretty creative to go from that what we heard before to this, and what
Yeah.
you heard before was creative as well. But this is now. Emperor Tomato Ketchup has appeared in numerous lists of greatest albums of all time. Spin
Oh.
named it the 46th best album of the 90s. It was ranked 51st on Pitchfork list of the decade's best albums, 54 out of the decade. It was also included in a book called 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die. There's Deborah. And just very quickly, we go here. Um, Remarkable page, this. So there is, this is the focus bit, which always gets me. There it is.
Yep.
Stereolab. And on the same page, tortoise, millions now dying, or millions now living will never die. Dr. Octagon, Dr. Octologist. That is an, I don't know if you heard that. It's an amazing album.
No.
Absolutely batshit fucking crazy. Yeah, you should check that out. I think you'll love that. Fatboy Slim. We go this way. And super furry animals, fuzzy logic, screaming trees, dust.
How about it? How about it?
Ah.
We just
Um,
discussed that.
Goldie, timeless. And then the other way. Oh, double page just for back. No delay. There you go. Um, Ben and
Good
Sebastian time
company.
out. Yeah, and DJ Shadow introducing. What a time to be alive. Um, so yeah, that's about it. It's, again, I'll give you some more Stereolab at another stage of their development. They're really interesting band, incredibly creative, and I think fairly important in terms of the sounds and stuff that was going on. So there you go.
Awesome.
Emperor Tomato Ketchup does exactly what it says on the tin.
Yes, it does. No, this is a great second dive into a band that had already kind of piqued my interest. Now it's just taking it to another degree. And it's so lovely to hear that they have this other, I don't know, like sound to them outside of what I was familiar with on our last video. So yeah, this is good stuff, man.
Cool. I shall wrap things up. Thanks for listening, Andy. Folks out there, there must be Stereolab fans amongst you. Make yourself heard. Please hit this like button if you like this and drop some comments about this track, which is awesome, about this album, which is awesome, about the band themselves, who are also full of awesomeness.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so please let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. Please help support this channel as we grow onwards and upwards. Everyone who does, we really do appreciate all your help. And the more we get, the more we push out there, and it goes to other people and the algorithms and you know, evil core and all that sort of stuff. It all helps. That being said, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see all of you on the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.